media, and what they did really well was actually use the exact same creative that they've ran across their social channels on their digital out-of-home sites, and that just creates a really seamless experience for everyone that sees it. So we're seeing a lot of it, and we really do hope that brands use it a lot and use these nano-influencers and micro-influencers.
Yeah, I think influencers have driven, influencer content on Snapchat has increased significantly over the last couple of years. I think many of you will know, like when Snapchat first came to market, we weren't necessarily known as like an influencer platform, but it's been a growing area for us, and we've had lots of creators join the platform. I think what's really unique about the way that they show up on Snapchat is it's similar to how our users engage with their friends. So it's very much about being authentic, being the real version of yourself. So when I was first learning about this, Middle East we've got huge, really, really high penetration in the Middle East, and some of the influencers there were posting on average 200 times a day. And I was like, what? That is mad. But they're literally snapping from the moment they wake up all the way throughout their day. So very, very different to the type of influencer content you see on other platforms. But yeah, there's been huge demand. And I think, again, leaning into this point around authenticity and identity, you know, all of these influencers, whether they're big or micro-influencers, basically give, you know, every person the opportunity to see someone that's really unique and different that they can relate to. So yeah, really exciting opportunity, lots of growth in that area on Snapchat, and yeah, incredibly powerful when brands leverage them too.
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo a lot of that. It's front and center for us. We've done a lot of testing in the UGC space, not just within UGC itself, but also testing UGC against lots of other types of advertising content to understand which type of content cuts through best for us and in what way. So again, testing different influencers in different markets has been critical to us, working with local influencers or micro influencers to really kind of, I suppose, speak to the niches of audience that we have in different markets, but then also testing UGC content, so running the same influencer but with different scripts and the product in different orders and different edit lengths and different placements, like really meticulously testing all of this stuff to understand when we launch new campaigns and new products, what's the best way for us to get the quickest cut through.
And a bit of a sneaky question, given we have Ruth in the room, but is it just all about TikTok and Snapchat? Like, what about YouTube? We know they spend a fair amount of time on their screen watching that platform as well. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there is always going to be a place for YouTube. It's one of the most trusted tech platforms by millennial parents. Like, they trust it. So, and you consider, like we've spoken about a lot, the amount of time that Gen Z, even Gen Alpha, are spending screening video content is massive. That's a third of the population that are on their phone screens, like 4 or 5 hours a day? Like, it's a lot of consumption of that type of content. We spend nearly as much on YouTube that we do on Meta and other types of advertising. So it's really important for us. It allows us to showcase our product in a different way compared to some other advertising platforms. So for us, yeah, it's still important.
And I think just to jump onto that, I often think it's quite a big misconception by people, you know, when they're thinking about platforms, because when you think of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, you'll think of like Snapchat and TikTok, for example. But if you think about your own consumption habits, right, and the range of different platforms that you use, you know, whether that's Pinterest, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Channel 4, ITV, Netflix, there's so many different platforms that make up our daily behavior, and it's exactly the same for Gen Z and Gen Alphas. So YouTube is like their TV, so they're consuming content there. Snapchat is communication. It's about them talking to their friends. So every platform has a role, and it's not about having one platform. It's about having a multi-platform strategy, so you are reaching as many of your core target audience as you can.
Fair. And would you recommend to adapt the content to each of the platforms specifically and go through? Sounds like you're going through a lot of testing, etc. Do you go through that with all of the platforms you're working with?
100%. Yeah, just test everything you do. That short and sweet. Do it.
Sounds good. Ruth, you talked a bit about augmented reality before, AR. We know that Gen Z expect AR to be part of their online shopping experience, and this will likely transition to Gen Alpha. From your perspective as Snapchat, like how are brands using AR effectively to engage with these shoppers, but also showcase their product effectively?
Yeah, so Snapchat's been building AR experiences for, I think I calculated this one, about 8 years now, which is mad. And it's a native part of the Snapchat experience. So, you know, what people will think of vomiting rainbows and puppy dog ears is AR. And what's happened over those 8 years is those experiences become more sophisticated, the technology is more advanced, and the bit that started to become really interesting for me over the last few years was when we were able to build shoppable experiences. So, you know, that started with obviously the phones in your hands. So the obvious use case was to put stuff on your face. So the beauty sector was sort of the first to sort of lean in and be able to sort of try on AR experiences. So whether that's different lipsticks, foundations. So yeah, the likes of MAC, Estee Lauder, L'Oreal, like they've been doing this for years, and many of them have those experiences integrated into their websites as well. And then we started to move on to shoes and clothing. So shoe try on. You know, we've built some amazing experiences for the likes of Nike, Adidas. And the big the big challenge for brands was the build and the cost of the build. So those AR experiences were built by 3D designers. You know, it could take 4 to 6 weeks. But with a lot of the new evolutions in tech and AI and machine learning, it means now that we can actually take a static image from your website and create an AR experience in about 5 to 10 minutes, which is pretty fantastic. So, you know, the thing that I'm really excited about is how can we deliver AR experiences, AR try-on experiences for retailers at scale. So in the same way you would serve, you know, static product images to your customers, you know, can you serve them a try-on experience or give them a 3D render of a Chili's bottle, for example. So that's really from sort of, I guess, a lower or mid to lower funnel perspective. And then, you know, AR, you know, it's an open creative canvas in the same way that video is or any other asset. So really opportunity is huge. Another example I'll give is one that we did with ASOS. So similar to Chili's, you know, no in-store presence. And I think what you were saying around, you know, providing those really exciting in real life experiences is key. So they launched a pop-up in Soho called ASOS Your Way, and it gave, you know, ASOS customers the opportunity to go in and try product. What we did at Snapchat is help amplify that experience. So we created an AR catwalk that could be activated when you were outside the store, and you could literally see a catwalk of models wearing all the different outfits. We had AR mirrors in the stores so that you could try all the beauty products on, because, you know, there was loads of queues to get in the changing rooms to try stuff on, and it just gave this sort of much deeper, more exciting, more fun customer experience when they were showing up at that store. So really, yeah, opportunities are endless and lots of exciting things going on in the AR space.
We, to caveat from that, we did a campaign with Coca-Cola which used AR as well, and they were really, it was so cool. So you basically scan the QR code, the billboard actually changed in real time to whoever had scanned it. You could then put your hand out, and from the billboard, a Coca-Cola bottle would actually come down onto your hand. Then on your phone, you actually got a location of the nearest Tesco and WH Smith stores that you could actually go and redeem your free bottle of Coke. So that was a really great experience that is super interactive, super personable as well, because you've scanned it, so the creative changes life for you as the audience member. And they saw fantastic results from that. They did it all across the UK, across sort of shopping centres, train stations. So that's a really memorable one for us.
And in terms of these campaigns that you're talking about, what's the definition of success? Like, how do you measure that it worked and it was really good?
So everyone asks us this for out of home. So you obviously have to look at your sales data. You're able to have a look at sort of share of search. I can never say that word. But also like your brand uplift. So it really depends on what your actual objectives are. So when brands say to us, how do we measure this? First of all, we have to say, what is your measurement of success going to be? Do you want a number of like different scans for the QR code? Do you actually want it to be sales conversion? Do you want it to be brand awareness? So it really, really just depends on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I think AR should just be treated like another ad format. So I think when AR first came about, when we started first talking about it 5-6 years ago, everyone was going, you know, I've got my brand campaign here and my commerce campaign, and then we want to do an AR campaign. And now we're saying, no, it's AR as an asset used as a part of your brand initiatives or your commerce initiatives, and it should be measured in the same way that you're measuring all the goals that you've got for each. So AR, we can track sales off the back of it. We can track traffic to site. We can track all your brand metrics, but yeah, that format needs to be delivering on your business goals in order to be effective use of your marketing investment. So,
good, Brandy. Have you tried AR in your current role?
We haven't dabbled in it a lot. I played in it a little bit in my previous roles in fashion, similar kind of ways that we've spoken about, but we haven't done a lot yet at Chili's, so it's an exciting area for us to potentially explore.
we'll get you on there. We'll get some Chili's bottles made, no problem.
And Ruth, you work across many different verticals in your role as Snapchat. Can you tell us, is there anything that Snap does with new tech that we should all know about to help brands drive sales?
Yeah, look, I think a big shift that Snapchat has been through over the last few years is really building out our commerce or our performance capabilities. So when we first came to market, I think we were like the new fun, playful, like brand platform, creating all these amazing AR experiences, etc. But what we've really honed in on over the last couple of years is actually becoming an effective channel for commerce and performance advertisers. So yeah, we've built out dynamic product ad capabilities. We've got integrations that you can do with us to share and match your data to make sure that the targeting, the optimization, the measurement that we can provide is showcasing effectiveness for your business. So I think that's probably been one of the big shifts that we've gone on as a business. And then I think from like a product feature capability, one of the newest features that's quite exciting is My AI. So we integrated OpenAI into our platform. We added a Snapchat layer to make sure it's safe and appropriate and you know in tone with our platform. But that has been amazing to see. So we've got 200 million users engaging with My AI, and so far they've sent over 20 billion messages, which is absolutely nuts. And the way that they're really using that feature is to help research for shopping, for travel, for what they're going to cook, what they're going to buy. And instead of having to go outside Snap and go somewhere else to search, they can do it all within the platform. So that's an exciting feature that yeah, it's got a huge amount of traction. And, you know, I think AI in general, very exciting and interested to see where it's going to go.
Sounds good. We talked a lot about the online world, and I would be quite keen to hear from you, Sonia, on bringing us back into reality in the real world a little bit. And how as marketer we should consider out of home and how it should work within the mix with digital to reach these younger shoppers.
So we launched Gengage, which is our Gen Z program, just under a year ago. It actually started at YMS last year, so it's nearly its 1-year birthday. So the reason we actually did that was because we actually found a lot of brands were saying that Gen Zs are constantly on their phone, they're always on socials, they're never out and about. But what we actually wanted to do was actually debunk that myth. Gen Zs do have lives, and so do Gen Alphas. They go to school, they go to college, so they are out and about within out-of-home environments. But what we actually want to talk about and what we sort of say is that there is this two-screen future. So it is that mobile digital element as well as that out-of-home element. So Meta actually did some research, and they found that average dwell time in out-of-home is 2 seconds. Average dwell time on social is also around 2 seconds. But when you actually prime an audience with out-of-home before they see the social media story actually works twice as hard. So the average dwell time then becomes 5 seconds. So what we've been saying to our clients that we work with is that use both medias together, because you want both of them to be successful. And in order for both of them to be successful, make sure that you're creating those synergies. So use the same creative on out of home that you are going to use on your social media stories, whether that be across Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube. Use the same color palettes, use the same influencer, for example, whatever it might be. That recognition is really what gets people to actually engage with your brand. And again, create that gamification, create QR codes, and just make sure that you actually put them in an area where you know this audience is going to be. So we've got multiple data sets where we can actually target based on location. So we know where a 18 to 24-year-old demographic is actually going to hang out. We know that they will be going to school at this time, and they actually travel from Paddington Station all the way to Liverpool Street Station or wherever it might be. So it's about that whole sort of omni-channel approach as well when you're booking your campaigns.
Sounds good, thank you. I think we're coming up to time. I just had one final question before we go to the audience. So if you have any questions, get ready. But in order to round us up, because we talked about a lot of different areas, what would be the one single piece of advice you would give to a brand who's looking to target Gen Zalpha?
66% of Gen Zalphas already have a favorite brand. So if you really want to target them, you need to start now and you need to start early, because otherwise you will lose it, and they will have their favorite brand, and that is the brand that they are going to go through for the next 90 years or whatever of their life, because apparently they're going to live the longest and they are the richest. So make sure you target them as soon as you can.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think we maybe wait too long sometimes for them to get and hit that, your target audience bucket before you start targeting them, and by then it's a bit too late. I think my piece of advice would be around like authentically showing up as a brand, like thinking about, how you want to show up to those audiences and talking to them in a way that they can relate to and feels authentic, and remembering that they're not just one type of person. They're a very mixed audience. They have mixed interests. They have mixed identities. So I think, just making sure what you represent as a brand is really clear, so you could help you connect with the right audiences.
Yeah, probably quite similar. Mine would be just know and find your niche. So we're talking a third of the population here. Like, we're not going to talk to them all in exactly the same way. So we need to understand you as a brand, exactly which age group are you targeting, what type of person are you targeting, what are their interests. Like, build out those personas, and then build your brand to fit those personas. Don't just go after Gen Zalpha. Like, it doesn't work like that. So think about your personas and find your niche would be my advice.
Sounds good. I'm now going to turn to the audience. Do you have any questions for our panel? Don't be shy. I think there's a mic running around. I can't see very well, so there's one at the back, I think. The light is very blinding. Can't really see much.
With the developments of AI and AR, particularly with smartphone, is this the death of desktop in terms of being able to reach Zalpha?
Did you say, is it the death of desktop?
Yeah, or demise, or are they moving towards more smartphone and less away from desktop and tablet, etc.?
Yeah, I think for most Gen Alpha, certainly, like, they're much more likely to own a phone than they are a laptop, and I assume they have both. So I don't necessarily think it's the death of desktop. I definitely think, like, from a Snapchat perspective, we've always been a mobile platform. We actually have a desktop version now. We released that about a year ago, but certainly everything we build for mobile. We know that's where our community are. We know that's where they're, communicating with their friends. So a lot of the experiences, work on mobile. It's harder, and we have tested that, building AR experiences on desktop, but the mobile phone, I guess, is where they're spending more and more time. So I think it's just going to be more of a time shift, right? Like time spent on mobile versus desktop. I think, a few years ago, if you were doing commerce campaigns, it was, maybe 90% desktop and 10% mobile, and now it's kind of flipped the other way. So, yeah, don't know if you've got any views on that.
I mean, there will be certain things that people will only ever buy on desktop. It just works better on desktop. And I think until brands can make their mobile experience virtually completely flawless, there will always be a place for desktop. So I don't think it's currently going anywhere. I think it's on brands. Either if desktop does go somewhere, the brands that only operate and convert really well on desktop will meet their demise. Or otherwise I think, I don't know, I've lost my train of thought, but yeah, there's always a place for desktop.
I think we're seeing that as well for student beans, that the laptop will be used for uni work, and so the mindset is very much on working, and that's more formal, more serious, but where the entertainment time and the downtime playing entertainment, that is very much on mobile. Other questions?
Hi, I'm Rommel. I used to run a bunch of Snapchats, like really popular shows, so I'm really excited about this talk. How important do you think responsiveness to trends is becoming at this point in time? Do you see AI enabling responsiveness to trends a lot more, or do you think that's just sort of irrelevant and it's much more important to just target niche customers?
Look, I think the way to think about AI, particularly my AI, is that it's providing a use case or a service, right, for those consumers. So for our community, it's all about being able to ask questions, get recommendations, get research. So, and yeah, we can identify sort of trends, I guess, and areas of interest or search topics, etc., from that data. But I think Snapchat is probably less about. There's other platforms that are sort of really big on trends and what's new and what's happening. Snapchat's much more rooted in communication. So yeah, I don't know if Chili's, have you got a view on the trend? Do you tap into any trends or anything?
I mean, we do, but you have to be careful with it, I think, as a brand. That's always our stance. There'll be some things that we are quite happy to jump on if they fit our brand and our profiling, but there's a lot of things that we will steer clear of for many different reasons. So it's picking the right battles, I think.
Any more questions? There's one in the front over there. Keep your hand up so we can find you. Thank you.
Hi. Speaking of Zalpha and Peak, as many of us are already really thick into now, do you have any thoughts on their shopping behaviors for Peak and how it might vary from older generations, and any tips or helpful pointers, as you've already given, towards Peak this year for Zalpha?
Oh yes, this is very front of mind at the moment. Snapchat's about to run a retail event in a couple of weeks all around Peak. So yeah, this is something we've been thinking about a lot. I think there's some bigger trends going on, right? So we had the pandemic, there was a huge shift to online, and now we're in this sort of post-pandemic world, and there's been a shift towards in-store. I think one of the trends that we've definitely seen is with Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're price savvy and they're price conscious. So they love to shop, they love to purchase, but they are having to be financially savvy. They don't have as much disposable income as, our generation maybe had when we were their age. So definitely last year we saw a lot of retail brands starting to launch their sales early. I think we all know that sort of Black Friday or Cyber Week is sort of getting longer and more stretched. And for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they are fully aware of when those sales are likely going to be happening. They're planning for it. They're planning what they're going to be purchasing. So it's a very competitive and expensive time, but it also delivers the highest ROAS, the best conversion rates. So, I think there's still a lot of benefit for brands to be showing up in that time, but you really need to be getting ahead of the game. The one thing that I say every year, and it still goes, is the earlier that you can start planning your strategies and activate and making sure that everything is set up correctly and that you've tested your creative and you know what it's going to run and you know who you're targeting, the better. They are you know, these are very savvy online shoppers. So they consume content at very high speed. So you need to be front of mind. You need to be very clear with the message. You need to be going out with at the right time. And yeah, you need to be making sure that your message is reaching them across a multitude of different platforms. Like, don't rely on one platform to reach our audience. As we've talked about, you know, Gen Z and Gen Alpha are everywhere, and they're not just online, they're outdoor as well. So, you know, you really need to be thinking about diversifying that platform strategy as you go into that key season.
I think one quick thing that I will add to that is if you are trying to target Gen Zalpha, don't forget that they have more pester power than purchasing power. So you're not just targeting them, but you're actually targeting their parents who actually have the money that are going to buy that product. And Zalphas are also very into gifting. They like to celebrate everything. So whether they've passed an exam, scored a goal at a football match, whatever it is, they are expecting a gift. So that pester power from them is really what is going to drive purchases as well. I mean, we've seen within the beauty industry things like Drunk Elephant all over TikTok. Like, what 12-year-old is buying a £50 beauty product? They're getting it as a gift because they've got that fear of that FOMO effect of when they go to school the next day that their friends have it and they haven't got it. So it's definitely, you're not just trying to target them, but also their parents.
Sounds good. Do we have time for one more question? No? Yes?
My question's for Snapchat lady in the middle. Do you see any differences between Gen Alpha and Gen Z on Snapchat? Like any? Because I feel like, is there any insights that you've seen sort of difference between those two audiences?
I think we're still, it is tricky to see the differences at the moment because they're so young. Like, they've got to be 13 to join Snapchat. So, you know, really it's those early teens. But, you know, the same as what I was saying before, they're obviously very leaned into their mobile phone. Friends play a key role. So, yeah, it's difficult to pass that out at the moment, just being completely honest. I think they're quite a young cohort. But, more to come on that.
Nice, that'll be the final word. So I wanted to say a massive thank you to our panel today for sharing all of their tips and insights. And thank you so much for the audience and your good questions. Have a good afternoon.